One of the greatest reasons why Masters of the Universe is such an awesome IP is because of its innumerable supremely powered sorcerers and magicians, which is no surprise because the IP itself is a sword and sorcery one. People like Skeletor and Evil Lyn or even Shadow Weaver are so potent that they could give just about any Marvel or DC villain a run for their money. And in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to discuss. The 8 most ultra-powerful characters that possess magical powers in the He-Man universe. So, without further ado, let's get started, yeah?
Cover your eyes! I'm turning on the lights in this dungeon!
The Sorceress of Grayskull. Okay, so without a doubt, the Sorceress of Grayskull is your usual wise lady in a mystical palace, but there's more to her than meets the eye. You see, she is basically the conscience of Eternia's most important fortress, aka Castle Grayskull, which is unique in itself because it holds ancient secrets, unimaginable power, and wisdom that shan't be played with. In other words, she does not guard the palace for the sake of it. In reality, her purpose, her magic, and her very life are connected to it. Depending on the continuity, the current sorceress could be Teela, or her mom, Teela Na. Long ago, Teela Na succeeded Kuduk Ungol and inherited this job whose description is all about sacrifice, solitude, and total devotion. So if you think about it, this is not a crown you wear, but rather a mantle you take over, a legacy you inherit and devote yourself to. And once you've taken the responsibility, you can say cheerio to your personal life. Now, the powers of a sorceress of Castle Grayskull comes from the legendary Pool of Power. And what this means is that when inside the Castle Grayskull, she is one of the strongest beings in Eternia. She can use powerful magic and even alter reality, and she does all this only to help maintain the balance between good and evil. But you know what? There is always a catch. The sorceress, at least Teela Na, can fully use this power only within Grayskull. Outside its walls, her strength fades because the rules of her role bind her to the castle. Beyond the fortress, she is forced to transform into Zor, a falcon, and she can speak telepathically with a few trusted allies. But things changed a bit in Masters of the Universe Revelation. There, Teela initially served as the captain of the Royal Guard, and learned that Prince Adam and He-Man are the same person after Adam sacrifices himself to save Eternia. She grieves him, but she also feels betrayed because no one trusted her with the truth. I mean, if my girlfriend was secretly a superhero, and I got to know that after her apparent death, even I'd be pissed off. Anyway, years later, Teela begins her own journey and prepares to enter the tide of transformation. The sorceress tells her she must sacrifice her life, freedom, dreams, as well as personal bonds to protect Grayskull's power. But Teela refuses to cut herself off from the people she loves. Instead, she realizes that it was actually these bonds and relations that actually gave her strength. So she chooses to use that power to protect her home and her loved ones, instead of protecting the power itself. And that is why Teela can use Grayskull's magic outside the castle.
Behold, the Lord of Destruction.
Skeletor. Skeletor is huge, like he's nearly as big as He-Man, and bigger in a few iterations, and it makes sense cause he is from the same bloodline as He-Man himself. If you are new to the whole thing, he is actually Prince Adam's uncle. The evil, ugly, skull-faced sorcerer wears purple all the time, and his laugh is so extra that Mark Hamill's Joker might be put to shame. No kidding. And now, in the upcoming Masters of the Universe film, he is once again set to become a major problem for He-Man. And Skeletor's once gonna prove that he's much more than evil guy wants castle. Over the years, Skeletor has had many versions. Fans probably know the Filmation cartoon version from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe best. But his first major story came through the mini-comics that were given with the He-Man action figures. In those, Skeletor came to Castle Grayskull because he wanted half of the Power Sword, because that would have helped him conquer all of Eternia. But then, the Filmation series changed his lore. In this iteration of Masters of the Universe, Skeletor wasn't even from Eternia. In fact, he was a denizen of this planet called Infinita, and served as the apprentice of Hordak. Now, Hordak had conquered Etheria, which was basically the sister planet of Eternia, and that is also where He-Man's twin sister named She-Ra was taken as an infant. But despite being the most dangerous villain of this continuity, Skeletor had that slightly bumbling lackey energy to himself. Anyway, as the cartoon progresses, Hordak's army flees and leaves him behind, which is when Skeletor decides that Eternia should belong to him. This becomes his singular goal, and he begins working towards it mindlessly and relentlessly. But the thing is, his story became way more personal and connected to He-Man in Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelation and Masters of the Universe Revolution, where Skeletor is revealed to be Keldor, He-Man's uncle. Long ago, Keldor came into conflict with King Randor, and the Skull Man just flipped and went against his own kin. Now, the new Masters of the Universe movie is set to release on June 5th, 2026, and from the trailer, Jared Leto's Skeletor does not seem like the cowardly version some people may remember from their childhood. His red eyes glow under the hood, his ram-headed Havoc staff leaves a trail of purple smoke-like energy, and his attacks look far more purposeful and forceful than before. Needless to say, this Skeletor is going to be a real pain in the ass for He-Man. Director Travis Knight said Leto had a lot of room to shape the character. Leto's version is a Skeletor who represents toxic masculinity, but Leto has not had a great history with playing iconic characters. I mean, his Joker divided fans. Some hated him, some loved him, but most of the people just went, meh. So let's see what he does with Skeletor.
Its utter destruction is an absolute must!
Evil Lyn. Now, this great lady here is the only female member of the Evil Warriors and is basically an evil witch who serves as Skeletor's second-in-command, and she uses powers that are connected to darkness. But she is also far smarter than most of Skeletor's minions, and maybe she is smarter than Skeletor himself. Having said that, she is very self-aware and knows her position, so much so that she admits that mongrel Skeletor is more powerful than her. But that does not mean she accepts him as her forever boss. Her real goal is to take his power one day and rule Eternia herself. That is what makes Evil Lyn more dangerous than the average henchman. She does not want to help Skeletor conquer Eternia out of devotion, but because she knows that getting Eternia from Skeletor would be far easier than getting it from He-Man and his team. And because of this, she has often worked alone across animation, comics, and later reboots. At times, she has even betrayed him when it suited her. So it is safe to say that her loyalty is conditional at best. Her most prized weapon and tool is her staff-like wand that comes topped by a crystal ball. It is her trademark, and it gives her that proper sorceress energy. But she can also cast spells, summon energy, and control dark forces without any instrument. The wand is more of a symbol than a requirement, because Lyn herself is one of the most gifted magic users in the Masters of the Universe mythos. In Masters of the Universe Revelation number 3, we get to see her latest origin story. In that story, a young Lyn runs away from abusive caregivers, you see. They wanted to sever her hands because they did not wish for her to use magic at all. She escapes into the sewers and finds Majestra's lair, and then Lyn asks Majestra to teach her how to use magic, mostly for self-protection. Majestra agrees, but only on the condition that Lyn would never ever use her gifts for evil purposes. As Lyn learns, she heads to the surface to steal food, and during one of these trips, she returns to the house she fled a decade earlier and plans to use magic against her abusers. Before she can do it, Majestra pulls away the pink orb they used to control their powers. Furious, Lyn runs into the city, ends up in an alley, and two thieves follow her. Then Skeletor appears through a portal and stops them. Skeletor takes Lyn to Hordak's ship and says he has watched her for some time. He offers to teach her more magic, but his condition is that she must kill Majestra. Contrary to what anyone may have thought at that point, Lyn accepts the challenge, or the test if you want to call it that, and kills Majestra to steal the orb for herself. And the next thing we know, Skeletor starts to mold her into his right-hand woman, and she continues to help him pursue Castle Grayskull. Orko. Orko is a Trollin, which means he comes from Trolla, an extra-dimensional world where the rules of physics and everything else are pretty different from Eternia and Etheria. Like other Trollins, he looks like a small blue humanoid who can float in midair, but most of his body stays hidden under his robe, hat, and scarf. We usually see only his hands, ears, and eyes because Trollin custom rarely allows anyone to reveal their face, which means that Trollins might just be inspired from Orthodox Muslim women. In the Filmation series, Orko is meant to be a skilled wizard back home on Trolla, but on Eternia, his spells often backfire or fail because nature works differently there. So when he tries to help E-Man on adventures or entertain people at the Royal Palace, things often go sideways. But then again, in some of the episodes, Orko looks amateurish, even on Trolla, while other episodes show his uncle Montork as a powerful magician in both worlds. The 2002 series, however, did give Orko a bit more credit, as he was slightly more capable there, though he says he lost a wand when he came to Eternia, and that wand had made his magic stronger. Orko also keeps a ridiculous number of items inside his hat. Some are useful and, well, some not quite useful. As for his arrival on Eternia, it happened by accident. A space storm transported him there and he landed in the tar swamp. There he found a young Prince Adam and Cringer, back when Cringer was still a tiger cub, and saved both from death in the tar. During the rescue, Orko lost his pendant after he hit a tree. Since he was stuck on Eternia, the king made him royal jester as thanks for saving his son. Over time, Orko became one of Adam's closest friends, and he even knows Adam is secretly He-Man, though the story never explains how he found that out. I mean, good for him. The little guy figured out Eternia's biggest secret while people like Teela didn't know the truth. Orko's magic may be messed up and rather messy, but it is still powerful. He has even affected He-Man's sword and taken it away from him, and with his magic wand, his spells work more or less perfectly. In the She-Ra episode, A Talent for Trouble, we also learn that Trollin physiology makes no sense by science or magic. In fact, Shadow Weaver cannot trace Orko's origins, and Hordak's Minesweeper gets so confused after it scans him that it blows up and calls Hordak a meanie. Furthermore, in the comics, Orko is strong enough to fight Skeletor with magic too. As Orko says, Man-at-Arms always believed nobody could figure him out, and I believe he was right.
I summon forth the portal to the terrible dimension of despond.
Hordak. Hordak is Skeletor's old master, She-Ra's archenemy, and of course he is the ruthless cyborg commander of the Horde, the force that conquered most of Etheria. In most versions, Skeletor betrayed Hordak and trapped him in another dimension before he began his own conquest of Eternia. But then again, Hordak is not exactly the forgiving type, so he later returns with revenge on his mind, with the intention of taking over Eternia as well. But yeah, on Etheria, Hordak rules through Horde troopers, many of whom wear a red bat symbol on their chests. In fact, in the 2018 Netflix series She-Ra and the Princess of Power, Hordak is the younger brother of Horde Prime. In the 1980s series, however, he was a cyborg who could alter his shape, like he could turn into a rocket for a fast escape. Anyway, the 2002 series did a good job at giving Hordak a more ancient and powerful role. There he wants to rule all of Eternia. After he and his forces defeat the Snake Men, he attacks Castle Grayskull, but King Grayskull defeats him and banishes him and his forces to the Abyss. Ages later, somehow, Hordak becomes Keldor's master, despite those dimensional barriers, and when Keldor is mortally wounded in battle against Randor, Hordak saves his life by turning him into Skeletor, and warns him that one day there will be a price for that help. Later, Evil Lyn and Count Marzo try to release Hordak from his prison. Also, his powers change depending on the version. In Filmation, most of his abilities are science-based, like he can turn his arm into an energy cannon, become a massive tank, travel long distances as a rocket, etc. But you just cannot ignore the whole eerie glow thing, and the instant nature of these changes make them feel partly magical. The mini-comics and Marvel Star Comics are actually where he goes full-fledged into dark magic, where he is equal to or stronger than Skeletor, and has way too much knowledge than the Skeletal Dark Lord. King Hiss. King Hiss is one of the more ancient villains from the Masters of the Universe world, and as the name suggests, he is the leader of the Snake Men and one of the stronger enemies that He-Man has had the honor of fighting. But I must note that King Hiss did not really appear in the original Filmation cartoon, although his Snake Men did appear, but they were folded into the evil Horde and did not have any relationship whatsoever with Hiss. In the 2002 cartoon, however, King Hiss was shown in all his diabolical glory. This guy was evil, power-hungry, and extremely ruthless. And unlike Skeletor, King Hiss actually thinks things through, in the sense that he studies details, closes practically all the weak links he can find, and only then does he act. In Second Skin, this becomes clear when he uses the tablet of the Serpent's Ring only after he understands its power and how to control it. But you know what? King Hiss also has a strange code with his own people. Unlike Skeletor, who humiliates his minions every other Tuesday, King Hiss respects his warriors. He praises them, rewards them, and in return, the Snake Men are fiercely loyal to him. We see this with Cobra Khan, who throws himself in front of King Hiss to protect him from Roboto's attack. When Cobra Khan gets hurt, King Hiss's eyes glow with anger. That tells you something. I mean, this guy may see almost everyone else as dinner, but his own soldiers, well, he respects them. Oh, and by dinner, I meant it literally. Like, he has been known to happily eat people alive, and that too, for pleasure. Cobra Khan describes him as generous to his friends and ruthless to his enemies, which is kind of a generous statement when used to describe a royal cannibal steak tyrant. But what I like about him is that he even respects his enemies and gives credit where it is due. For instance, when he compares He-Man to King Grayskull. But yeah, the man's got flaws too. And I guess the worst of these flaws is his acute racism. He sees the Snake Men as a master race, while everyone else is food or a slave at best. Even his allies are not safe from him. He would have eaten Evil Lyn alive after she helped free him from the Void, and only spared her for a while when she offered him Castle Grayskull's power while begging for her life. That makes him very different from Skeletor, who only wants power and control, but does not go around trying to eat people who wield such power or control. Shadow Weaver. Shadow Weaver made her first appearance in the She-Ra animated series as the evil Horde's head mistress of dark magic. The woman hides her horrific appearance under a grand crimson hooded robe, lives on the outskirts of the Fright Zone in a place called Horror Hall, and commands black magics with her knowledge of dark Etherian mystical lore. And because of the innumerable years of Horde dominion across the galaxy, she has amassed a wealth of ancient artifacts that help her with her magic. Much like Evil Lyn serves Skeletor as his second-in-command, Shadow Weaver is often seen as Hordak's second-in-command, but the sad little truth is that she is simply his slave. But yeah, we simply cannot deny that despite her position under him, she is a powerful sorceress in her own right, equal to her old rival, Castaspella. Shadow Weaver was initially an apprentice sorceress from Mysticor. Later, Shadow Weaver trained under Norwyn, the greatest Etherian sorcerer. But then Hordak came to Etheria and made an offer she could not refuse. She was to give him the location of the Rebel Council of Kings, and he would make her head Horde sorceress, with access to top-tier Horde magics. As promised, Hordak gave her access to his Dark Gem, which magnified her powers. But as she absorbed its power, Norwyn found her and destroyed the gem, cutting her link to it. She had taken only a third of its power, but that was enough to change her forever, both mentally and physically. Fully corrupted by dark magic, she turned her back on Mysticor, Norwyn, and Castaspell and joined the Horde for good. Later, she also served as something of an adoptive mother to Adora under Hordak's orders. However, the 2018 series changed her design and backstory a bit. This version has no hood and wears a mask to hide her disfigurement. As for her backstory, she was once Lightspinner, a disgraced Mysticorian mage who left her kingdom and later became Hordak's second-in-command. Furthermore, she draws power from the Black Garnet runestone, and also favors Adora over Catra, and even acts against Hordak's orders because she is so focused on reclaiming Adora for herself. But it was this very obsession that ultimately led to her ruin. Catra gained Hordak's favor and managed to replace her, and Shadow Weaver ended up imprisoned after she refused to surrender the Black Garnet. Quite violently at that. Later, she defected to the rebellion and helped Adora despite her friends' doubts. In the finale, she sacrificed herself to destroy the monster that kept Adora and Catra from the heart of Etheria. Ranamir. Granomir is another ancient He-Man character. He is the Lord of the Dragons of Darksmoke, and the guy is counted among the oldest, wisest, and most powerful beings on Eternia. According to him, Skytree is the only being that's older than him. He is a huge European-style dragon with red scales, wings, and a dark gray helmet. But he is not some animalistic beast that breathes fire at everything that moves. He speaks softly, and that too with a refined accent, which gives him this learned, patient persona. But see, Granomir is one of the few dragons of Darksmoke we actually meet, because his kind usually avoids outsiders, especially humans, and their opinion of humanity is not great. The dragons have a low view of humans because of the bad blood between both sides in Eternia's ancient past. Granomir lived through that terrible era, when dragons and humans fought each other, until a truce was finally made. After that, the dragons left the rest of the world alone and chose isolation in Darksmoke. Granomir is over 10,000 years old too, and it is said he has not had a good laugh since that ancient time. But you know what? He-Man slowly changes Granomir's view. Through his heroic deeds, He-Man makes him believe that there may still be hope for humans. Anyway, the reason I put him on this list is because he is also a powerful sorcerer, and his powers and his strength are somehow connected to the mystical fires from the Pit of Shadows. At some point in the past, he also had an enemy in the evil dragon Shadowwing, who was later trapped inside an obelisk to protect the world from his evil. In the She-Ra Princess of Power episode Dark Smoke and Fire, Adora accidentally gets thrown into Eternia's past. There, she witnesses the war between dragons and humans firsthand, along with the fear humans had toward dragons. The episode reveals that a wizard caused the conflict by attacking a human food supply and blaming the dragons, which pushed humans into a war. So yeah, being a sword and sorcery IP, it is no wonder the world of Masters of the Universe have several awesome sorcerers and magicians. But at the end of the day, it's not sorcery or magic that lets you win, it's love and heart, both of which are plenty in He-Man. That was all in this one, guys. If you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these awesome videos. Stay safe and have a good one.